Waitress with sick child receives a tip from Messi that changes everything. How will this story turn out? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. The morning rush had begun, and the cozy diner was already packed with customers. Waitresses moved swiftly between tables, balancing plates and refilling coffee cups as the scent of freshly cooked breakfast filled the air. Among them was Elena, a young mother in her late 20s, wearing a weary but determined expression. She had been working double shifts for weeks, doing everything she could to provide for her 2-year-old daughter, Mia. Elena forced a smile as she approached a new customer sitting in the corner booth. His back was turned to her, and he wore a simple white sweatshirt with black stripes running down the sleeves. He looked familiar, but she had no time to dwell on it. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to Jake's Diner. What can I get for you today?" she asked, pulling out her notepad. The man turned slightly, revealing his face, and Elena's breath hitched. She blinked, convinced her exhaustion was playing tricks on her. Seated before her, casually flipping through the menu, was Lionel Messi. Her heart pounded. She had seen him countless times on TV, lifting trophies, scoring impossible goals, and making history. But now, he was sitting in her section, in this small-town diner, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Messi glanced up, smiling warmly. "Just a coffee, please. And maybe whatever you recommend for breakfast," he said in his signature soft-spoken tone. Elena hesitated for a second before nodding. "Of course. I'll get that right out for you." She turned quickly, her hands trembling as she jotted down the order. She wanted to tell someone, anyone, but instead, she took a deep breath and focused on doing her job. After all, she couldn't afford to make a mistake. Minutes later, she returned with his coffee and a plate of pancakes, eggs, and crispy bacon. "Here you go," she said, setting the plate down carefully. Messi glanced at her name tag and smiled. "Thank you, Elena." Her chest tightened at the sound of her name coming from his lips. "Enjoy your meal," she said, quickly moving on to her next table before she did something embarrassing, like squealing in excitement. As she worked, she couldn't help but steal glances at Messi. Unlike other celebrities, he wasn't trying to draw attention to himself. He simply ate his meal in peace, occasionally checking his phone. Some customers whispered and pointed, but no one dared to disturb him. Just as she was refilling a customer's coffee, a sharp cry rang out from the kitchen. Elena's stomach dropped. She recognized that cry anywhere. "Mia!" She rushed toward the back, her hands trembling as she pushed open the swinging door. Her daughter, wrapped in a tiny pink sweater, was in the arms of the diner's owner, Mrs. Thompson. The older woman gave Elena a sympathetic look. "She's been fussy all morning. I think she might have a fever," Mrs. Thompson whispered. Elena's heart clenched as she took Mia into her arms. The little girl sniffled, resting her hot cheek against her mother's shoulder. I can finish my shift," Elena stammered, but Mrs. Thompson shook her head. "Take her home, Elena. She needs you." Elena knew she should leave, but she needed the money. Every shift counted. Every dollar helped pay for Mia's medication and doctor visits. Before she could argue, a voice interrupted. "Elena." She turned, startled. Messi stood near the kitchen entrance, his expression gentle yet firm. "Go take care of your daughter," he said. Her eyes widened. Had he been watching? She opened her mouth to protest, but Messi reached into his pocket, pulling out a thick stack of bills. He set them on the counter beside her. "For Mia," he said simply. Elena gasped. The stack was enormous, more money than she had seen in years. I can't accept this," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. Messi smiled. "You can. And you will." Elena clutched Mia closer, overwhelmed by emotion. The entire diner had gone silent, customers watching the interaction unfold in awe. Messi gently placed a hand on Mia's back. "She deserves a healthy, happy life. This is just a little help." Elena's lips trembled. Thank you. Thank you so much. Messi nodded, stepping back. Go. She needs her mom. Elena didn't hesitate this time. She hugged Mia tightly and rushed out of the diner, tears streaming down her face, not from sadness, but from pure gratitude. She had come into work that morning expecting another long, exhausting day. Instead, a single act of kindness from a football legend had changed everything. And as she walked home with her daughter in her arms, she knew that no matter how hard life got, there were still good people in the world. People like Lionel Messi. As Elena carried Mia home, her mind raced with emotions. She had spent so many nights worrying, calculating every dollar, trying to figure out how she would afford the next round of medication or a visit to the doctor. And in one unexpected moment, everything had changed. Messi hadn't just given her money, he had given her hope. Back at their small apartment, Elena laid Mia down on the couch, checking her forehead. The fever was still there, but at least her little girl was resting. She pulled out her phone, hands still shaking, and stared at the money Messi had left her. She counted it once, then twice, then a third time, convinced she must have been imagining things. It was $10,000. Her breath caught. This was more than she made in several months combined. It was enough to not only cover Mia's medical expenses, but also to finally give her some breathing room, to take a day off without fear of missing rent, to maybe, just maybe, start dreaming again. Tears welled in her eyes as she clutched the bills to her chest. Mia stirred, her tiny fingers grasping at the air. "Mama," she mumbled sleepily. "I'm here, sweetheart," Elena whispered, brushing a damp curl away from Mia's forehead. Her daughter's eyelids fluttered open. "Mama sad?" Elena let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. "No, baby. Mama's happy." For the first time in years, that was the truth. The next morning, Elena woke up feeling lighter than she had in a long time. Mia's fever had broken overnight, and she was already sitting up, playing with her stuffed bunny. "You're feeling better, huh?" Elena said, smiling. Mia nodded, her curls bouncing. "Messi nice." Elena froze. "What did you say?" "Messi nice," Mia repeated, hugging her bunny. "Gave Mama happy." Elena swallowed hard. How much had Mia understood? She had barely been awake during the whole ordeal, yet somehow, she had felt the impact. Elena pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead. "Yes, baby. Messi is very nice." Later that day, Elena made a decision. She couldn't just take the money and disappear. She needed to thank him. She returned to the diner, half hoping, half dreading that Messi would still be there. But of course, he wasn't. A man like him didn't stay in one place for long. Mrs. Thompson greeted her with a knowing smile. "I was wondering when you'd come back." Elena sighed. "Did he say anything before he left?" Mrs. Thompson nodded. "Just that he hoped you'd use the money well, and that you should never feel guilty about accepting kindness." Elena exhaled, her chest tight. "I wish I could thank him properly." Mrs. Thompson patted her arm. "Sometimes, the best way to thank someone is to pay it forward." Those words stuck with Elena. Over the next few weeks, she used Messi's gift wisely. She paid off Mia's medical bills, set aside money for future treatments, and even managed to take a few days off to spend time with her daughter. But she didn't stop there. She started helping others in small ways, buying a meal for a struggling mother at the diner, leaving extra tips for her co-workers, donating to a local charity. And every time she did, she thought of Messi. One evening, as she put Mia to bed, her daughter suddenly looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes. "Mama," she said. "Messi come back?" Elena smiled, brushing a hand through Mia's curls. "Maybe someday, sweetheart." And deep in her heart, she knew that even if she never saw him again, his kindness would stay with them forever. Because sometimes, a single act of generosity could change everything. And Messi had done just that. A few months had passed since that life-changing encounter, and Elena's world had transformed in ways she never thought possible. Mia was healthier than ever, and for the first time in years, Elena felt stable, secure. The weight that had constantly sat on her shoulders, the stress of unpaid bills, the fear of losing her job, the uncertainty of her daughter's health, had been lifted. One afternoon, as she was finishing her shift at the diner, a familiar face walked in. Her heart nearly stopped. It was him. Lionel Messi. Elena's hands trembled as she wiped them on her apron, trying to compose herself. She had dreamed of this moment, imagined 100 ways to thank him, but now that he was standing right there, she felt frozen. Messi smiled as he approached the counter. "I was in town again and thought I'd stop by." Elena swallowed the lump in her throat. Thank you. I don't even know how to say it properly." He chuckled. "No need to thank me." "Yes, I do," she insisted. "That money changed everything for me and Mia." Messi tilted his head slightly, as if studying her. "Mia's doing well?" Elena's face lit up. "She's amazing. She's healthier than she's been in years. And she knows who you are now." Messi raised an eyebrow playfully. "Is that so?" Elena nodded. "She calls you the nice man who made Mama happy." Messi laughed. "That's a good title." She hesitated for a moment before pulling something out of her pocket, a small, folded note. "I know this might seem silly, but Mia wanted to give you this." Messi took the note and unfolded it. Inside was a simple crayon drawing, a stick figure of him holding hands with a smaller stick figure labeled Mia. A giant, lopsided heart was drawn around them. For a moment, Messi just stared at it, a warm smile spreading across his face. "This is the best gift I've ever gotten," he said sincerely. Elena exhaled in relief. "She wanted to give you something back." Messi carefully tucked the drawing into his jacket. "Tell Mia I'll keep it forever." Elena blinked back tears. "I will." He glanced around the diner, then back at her. "And how about you? How have you been?" She let out a soft laugh. "Better than I've been in a long time. I even started helping others the way you helped me." Messi nodded approvingly. "That's the best way to repay kindness." They stood there for a moment, the hum of the diner fading into the background. Then Messi reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. He placed it gently on the counter, a VIP ticket to a game, along with a handwritten note. "For you and Mia," he said. "Come watch a match as my guests." Elena gasped. Messi, this is too much." He shook his head. "You and Mia deserve some joy." Tears welled in her eyes as she picked up the ticket. "I don't know how to thank you." Messi smiled. "You already did." With that, he gave her a small nod and turned to leave. Elena stood there, watching as he walked out the door, realizing something important. Some people were famous for their talent. But Messi? He was famous for his heart. And she would never forget him. That weekend, Elena and Mia attended their first ever football match, sitting in the best seats in the stadium. And as Messi scored a goal and looked up at the stands, he spotted them, Elena, with Mia on her lap, waving excitedly. And he smiled. Because some moments were bigger than the game. Some moments changed lives forever. And this was one of them. That night, after the game, Elena tucked Mia into bed, her little girl still buzzing with excitement from the experience. "Mama," Mia whispered, clutching the Messi jersey that had been gifted to her after the game. "Do you think we'll ever see him again?" Elena brushed a stray curl from her daughter's forehead and smiled. "I don't know, sweetheart. But even if we don't, he'll always be in our hearts." Mia yawned, her tiny fingers tracing the Messi autograph on the jersey. "I want to be kind like him one day." Elena's heart swelled with pride. "You already are, my love." She kissed Mia's forehead, watching as her daughter's eyes fluttered shut, her breathing soft and even. For the first time in years, Elena felt at peace. The next morning, as she walked into the diner, her coworkers swarmed her, holding up their phones. "Elena, have you seen this?" one of them asked, practically shoving a screen in her face. Confused, she took the phone and gasped. There, on Messi's official social media, was a picture of Mia's drawing. The caption read, "This is the best gift I've ever received. True kindness comes full circle." Elena's hands trembled. The post already had millions of likes and comments. People were sharing her story. And then, her manager walked up to her, looking stunned. "Elena," he said, his voice shaking. "Someone called this morning." She blinked. "Who?" He exhaled. "A sports foundation. They want to offer you a job, a better paying one, with benefits." Elena's mouth fell open. "What?" Her manager smiled. "They said they heard about your story and how you've been helping others. They think you'd be a perfect fit." Tears filled her eyes. This can't be real. But it was. Because kindness had a way of finding its way back. And as Elena walked home that evening, holding Mia's hand, she looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you." Because sometimes, a single act of kindness could change the course of a lifetime. And hers had just begun. Elena couldn't believe how much her life had changed in just a matter of days. The overwhelming kindness she had received, not just from Messi but from the entire community, felt surreal. She had spent years struggling, constantly worrying about Mia's health, rent, and whether she could afford another week's worth of groceries. Now, everything was shifting. The foundation that had reached out to her wasn't just offering her a job, they were also willing to cover Mia's medical expenses through their charity program. It was an opportunity she never could have imagined, and she felt as if she had stepped into someone else's dream. As she sat down with the foundation representatives later that afternoon, they explained the details of her new position. She would be working in community outreach, helping other struggling families like hers find support through local programs. It was a full-time job with a salary that would allow her to finally breathe. "Elena," one of the representatives said, smiling warmly, "we've seen how hard you work and how much you give to others. This isn't charity. This is because you deserve it." Tears welled up in her eyes. She had spent so long fighting to survive that she never imagined someone would believe in her like this. That evening, she took Mia to the park to celebrate. The little girl giggled as she kicked a soccer ball, her energy returning more each day as her health improved. Elena watched her, overwhelmed with gratitude. Then, as if the universe wasn't done surprising her, she received a phone call. "Elena, it's me, Coach Ramirez from the youth football club." She frowned, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Coach? What's going on?" "Well," he chuckled, "I have a bit of a crazy story for you. After Messi's post went viral, we started getting calls. Donations, sponsorships, people from all over the world want to support our program. And a certain football legend might have suggested that Mia should have a place in our academy." Elena nearly dropped her phone. "Wait, what?" The coach laughed. "Messi wants Mia to have the best training possible. We're offering her a full scholarship." Elena pressed a hand to her mouth, the weight of the moment washing over her. "Oh my God. Mia has a gift, Elena. We saw it that day. She has talent, but more than that, she has heart." Elena looked over at her daughter, who was still running happily in the grass, her laughter echoing in the park. This was more than just luck. This was fate. "Thank you, Coach." "Thank you so much," she whispered, her voice shaking. He chuckled. "No, thank you. Mia's going to do great things, I can feel it." Elena hung up, wiping the tears from her face. She had spent so long struggling, but now, everything was falling into place. As she watched Mia chase after the ball, determination in her eyes, Elena knew this was only the beginning. The days that followed felt like a dream Elena never wanted to wake up from. The overwhelming support from strangers, the messages of encouragement, the financial security for Mia's medical needs, it was more than she had ever dared to hope for. But beyond all of that, the biggest joy came from watching Mia grow stronger each day. Her cheeks had regained their rosy color, her energy had returned, and her laughter filled their small apartment like music. One morning, as Elena prepared breakfast, Mia ran into the kitchen, still in her pajamas, her curly hair a mess. "Mama, when can I start playing football?" Elena smiled, setting down the spatula. "Soon, Mia Moore. Very soon." Mia's eyes lit up with excitement. "And Messi will come watch me play?" Elena chuckled, crouching down to meet her daughter's gaze. "I don't know about that, but he definitely believes in you. And so do I." Just then, her phone buzzed. It was an email from the Youth Academy, confirming Mia's official enrollment. Elena still couldn't believe it. A few weeks ago, she had been working double shifts just to keep food on the table, and now, her daughter had a future full of possibilities. Later that day, as Elena walked into the cafe to formally submit her resignation, she felt a strange mix of emotions. She had spent years in that place, working tirelessly to provide for her daughter, but she had also suffered there endless exhaustion, rude customers, nights of crying in the break room. And yet, as she stepped inside, she felt nothing but gratitude. Her manager, a stern but kind woman, looked up in surprise. "Elena, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be off today." Elena took a deep breath and handed her the letter. "I wanted to give you this in person. It's my resignation." The manager's eyes widened. "Resignation? But why?" Elena smiled. "Because for the first time in years, I don't have to work 3 jobs just to survive. Because my daughter is healthy. And because I've been given a chance to help others." The older woman stared at her for a moment, then her lips curved into a small smile. "You deserve this, Elena. I'm happy for you." As she walked out of the cafe for the last time, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was living. That night, as she tucked Mia into bed, the little girl looked up at her with sleepy eyes. "Mama, do you think Messi remembers me?" Elena stroked her daughter's hair, smiling. "I think he remembers everyone he helps, Mia Moore." Mia yawned, snuggling into her blanket. "I want to be just like him one day." Elena's heart swelled with pride. "And you will be. In your own way." As Mia drifted off to sleep, Elena sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. Life had tested her in every possible way, but she had never given up. And now, for the first time in a long time, she was excited for what the future would bring. She had always believed in hard work and perseverance, but now she believed in something else too, kindness. Because one act of kindness had changed everything. And in her heart, she knew, one day, she would do the same for someone else. The following weeks brought a sense of stability that Elena had never known before. The fear of hospital bills, overdue rent, and long sleepless nights working multiple shifts had vanished. She had always dreamed of providing Mia with a secure, happy childhood, and now it was finally becoming a reality. With her newfound financial freedom, Elena did more than just enroll Mia in the Youth Football Academy. She found a small, cozy apartment in a better neighborhood, one with a nearby park where Mia could run and play. For the first time in her life, she wasn't worrying about scraping by. She could focus on being a mother, on being present for her daughter instead of always being exhausted. One afternoon, as Mia ran around the apartment, giggling with pure joy, Elena sat down at the kitchen table and opened her laptop. She had been thinking a lot about the kindness Messi had shown her. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the belief he had in her, in Mia, in their future. It had inspired her to do something more. After taking a deep breath, she began typing out a message. "Dear Mr. Messi, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need to say thank you. Not just for the tip, not just for the help, but for what you showed me that day in the cafe. You reminded me that there are good people in the world, people who believe in kindness and generosity and lifting others up. That day, you didn't just change my life, you gave my daughter a future. Mia is doing better than ever. She's healthy, strong, and full of dreams. She tells everyone that she's going to be just like you one day, not just as a footballer, but as a person. And because of you, I believe her. I want you to know that I will never take what you did for granted. I plan to use this opportunity to help others, just as you helped us. One act of kindness can change a life, and I promise I will pass it forward. With gratitude, Elena and Mia. As she finished typing, a tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, smiling to herself. She hit send and leaned back in her chair, feeling a deep sense of peace settle in her heart. A few days later, Elena and Mia were at the football academy for Mia's first real match. She had trained hard, and today, she would play in her very first game. Elena watched from the sidelines, beaming with pride as her daughter ran onto the field, her small figure full of determination. The game was intense, but Mia played her heart out. Every time she touched the ball, Elena could see the spark in her eyes, the same spark she had seen in Messi's that day in the cafe. It was a moment of pure joy, of everything coming full circle. Then, just as the game ended, Elena's phone buzzed. She pulled it out and saw an email notification. Her breath caught in her throat. From Lionel Messi. With shaky hands, she opened it. Elena, thank you for your message. It means more to me than you know. I've always believed that football is about more than just the game. It's about people, about moments, about changing lives. I'm proud of you and Mia. Keep believing, keep pushing forward, and never forget, you both deserve every bit of happiness coming your way. With respect, Leo. Elena let out a soft laugh, her eyes misty with tears. She looked up just in time to see Mia running toward her, her face glowing with excitement. Mama, did you see me? I scored a goal. Elena knelt down, pulling her daughter into a tight hug. I saw, Mia more. And you were incredible. Mia grinned. Do you think Messi would be proud? Elena smiled, her heart full. I know he would. As they left the field that day, Elena knew one thing for certain, her life, and Mia's, would never be the same. And all because one person chose to believe in them.